This is Tal from Orbs, and today we're going to talk about designing the cheapest public blockchain at scale. So if you compare the public blockchain infrastructure space to other infrastructure spaces, for example, the cloud or databases 20 years ago, you see that the competition in these spaces revolves usually around technology in the beginning, who can create the most scalable solution. Then it moves over to cost, who can give the same service for the cheapest price, and ultimately to ecosystem size or community size, who can give the most APIs, the biggest tools around it, and so forth. The special thing about public blockchain is that we kind of skip the cost. Solutions in this space usually compete over technology, who can give the most scalable solution, and then they moved over to compete over ecosystem size and community. Nobody's talking about costs. At Orbs, we think that costs are very important, and if we're after usage, then getting the costs right is very important for success. So what are some of the plagues that prevent the public blockchain from succeeding regarding costs? So the biggest problem with most public blockchains out there is the diseconomy of scale. What does that mean? That means that most of these solutions, like Ethereum, were purposely designed to have limited capacity. This means that costs increase with demand. The more customers they have, the more expensive they become. And if you think about it, that's pretty crazy. It actually behaves the opposite of what it should. Think about Amazon AWS. Systems like that, infrastructures like that, become cheaper the more people use it. So one of the first things we had to solve at Orbs is to get this right, to make the infrastructure become cheaper the more users actually use it. The second big problem public blockchains out there have is the fact that the fees are unpredictable. Think about an app trying to launch on these platforms. This app has to think about how much is it going to cost. The big problem with public blockchains is that it's bidding. You bid and it's a shared market. That means that you don't actually know how much you're going to pay, and it actually has to do with how many other people are trying to run over the platform. Think about CryptoKitties. Think about CryptoKitties launching right when your app is launching. Your app is going to become much more expensive because CryptoKitties has become popular. Now this doesn't work for most apps. An app developer wants to have predictability. They need to know how much they're going to pay, and they need these costs to be with guaranteed SLAs, a service level agreement that guarantees the speed or the transaction throughput that you will receive for how much money you're paying. So this is another thing in Orbs that we fixed with our subscription model based on virtual chains. The first thing has to do with who pays the fees. As you know, most public blockchains out there, the fees, the transaction fees, are paid by the end users. Now think about consumer infrastructure. Think about the cloud. This doesn't work. It doesn't work this way. Imagine Facebook Messenger. Imagine if you had to pay a fraction of a cent directly to Amazon for every Facebook message that you were sending in Messenger. This wouldn't work. Consumers are usually not that engaged with platforms. You have to have the app, such as Facebook, subsidize infrastructure fees. Now in public blockchains like Ethereum, this is not possible. Why? Because transaction fees are paid by the users who make them. Why? Probably because of history. These platforms were translated from banks, from the banking system like Bitcoin. Now this doesn't work for consumer applications. One of the things that we fixed in Orbs is that subscription costs are paid by the apps themselves, not by end users. This allows apps to subsidize the infrastructure. The main goal of Orbs is to have the cost of public infrastructure be the exact same like centralized infrastructure. Why is this important? If public blockchain infrastructure costs 10,000 as much as centralized infrastructure, it has to bring 10,000 much the value. Now this is very difficult to do. If we cost the same, then we are much more competitive for apps to actually run over our infrastructure. And this is what we're trying to do.